This shit going on between the United States and Greenland is real and chaotic. And if you've barely heard of it, here's the straight facts in normal English without bullshit. For months now and turning into early January 2026, the US under President Donald Trump has been openly dropping hints, statements, and political moves that suggest Washington thinks it should have control or a far stronger grip on Greenland, the massive Arctic island that's technically part of the Kingdom of Denmark, but has its own government and growing autonomy. Trump has said publicly that the US absolutely needs Greenland for national security reasons, talking about Russia, China, and strategic value in the Arctic, and he's even refused to completely rule out the idea of force if necessary to secure it. At the same time, he appointed a U.S. political figure, Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry, as an informal special envoy to Greenland, with comments linked to making Greenland part of the United States, a move that has infuriated Danish and Greenlandic officials and been widely called disrespectful and unacceptable by them. This isn't just some diplomatic talk, it's feeding real anger and mistrust. Leaders in Copenhagen and Nuuk have lost patience with Washington's rhetoric. Denmark's prime minister has publicly told the U.S. to stop threatening to take over Greenland, stressing that the U.S. has no right to annex it, and underlining Denmark's sovereignty and commitments under international law. Greenland's own prime minister has gone further, declaring the repeated rhetoric completely and utterly unacceptable, saying, "Enough is enough," and demanding respect for Greenland's autonomy and people. Greenland's leaders are clear. They are open to respectful dialogue, but not coercion, pressure, or talk of annexation. The anger isn't abstract. Provocative things like U.S. political figures' social media posts showing Greenland under a giant American flag with the word soon have sparked deep resentment and fed fears of unwanted takeover. So what's actually driving this? A big part is strategy. Greenland sits in the Arctic, a region with growing geopolitical competition as ice melts and new naval and air routes open up. It's close to both Europe and North America and containing important military sites like the U.S. Space Force's Patuxent Space Base, which the United States already uses and which is significant for missile warning systems and other defense infrastructure. Trump and allies have pointed to the presence of Russia and China in the Arctic to argue the U.S. must control Greenland to stay ahead geopolitically. Beyond security, Greenland sits on natural resources, including rare earth minerals that are crucial for tech and military hardware, something the U.S. sees as valuable in competition with China's dominance in those markets. Denmark, for its part, has responded not with quiet cooperation, but with a firm defense of its and Greenland's sovereignty. Copenhagen has approved agreements allowing U.S. forces to operate there under existing defense ties, but that is different from giving away territory, and Danish leaders have made that distinction loudly. They've summoned U.S. diplomats to explain themselves, rejected what they call a false narrative that Greenland wants to be American, and pointed to the legal frameworks that govern the island's autonomy within the Danish realm. Meanwhile, the European Union has publicly backed Denmark in this dispute, defending territorial integrity and rejecting any talk of changing sovereign borders through pressure. This adds a European dimension, where allies are warning that shifting norms about sovereignty could set dangerous precedents. It's worth noticing that Greenland itself isn't a monolith. Polls and political voices differ. Many Greenlanders favor full independence from Denmark over the long term, but they aren't wildly supportive of becoming part of the U.S. either, especially under talk of force or takeover. Greenland's government formation last year included a strong statement that the island is not for sale and remains firmly committed to its own future path. That means the public debate on the island has its own complexities, with local leaders balancing economic development, autonomy, and relationships with outside powers. So the tensions aren't just a one-off headline about Trump wanting to buy or take Greenland. It's a wider geopolitical flashpoint involving strategic military interests, sovereignty rights, historic ties, and competing visions of how the Arctic ought to be governed in the 21st century. U.S. moves have included diplomacy that Denmark sees as aggressive, allegations of covert influence efforts, and political rhetoric that many outside America find unnerving, because it suggests a powerful state might push around a smaller one, even if they're allied through NATO. For Denmark and Greenland, defending their control over the island goes beyond pride. It's about protecting legal rights, self-determination, and the rules that prevent bigger powers from bullying smaller ones. The situation also reflects how U.S. foreign policy under Trump has shifted into a more confrontational and unpredictable style that often clashes with long-standing alliances. The rest of Europe, including the EU and other NATO members, have made it clear they stand with Denmark's sovereignty, even while acknowledging that the Arctic's strategic dynamics are complicated and evolving. Russia's own buildup in the Arctic and China's interest in the region add layers of mistrust and urgency. That's exactly why the US is talking up strategic necessity, but also why other countries are pushing back. They fear the balance of power could shift in ways that destabilize existing diplomatic relationships. This dispute has real-world consequences, not just words in newspapers. Greenland's leaders are now faced with navigating pressure from one of the world's most powerful countries while trying to develop their own economy and governance. Denmark must balance its alliance with the United States against defending its territorial integrity, and the United States risks alienating friends and partners by appearing to ignore international norms about respect for sovereignty. Tensions could escalate further if rhetoric continues or if policy actions follow the aggressive tone of recent statements. In international politics, actions speak louder than words, and right now, the actions and comments from Washington are being heard as threats rather than security assurances in Copenhagen and Nuuk. For someone just hearing this now, it's important to understand that this isn't ancient history. It's unfolding, and the next moves by all parties involved will matter for Arctic geopolitics, U.S. foreign relations, and how smaller nations assert their rights on the global stage. If you want to stay updated on how this mess continues to unfold and what it means for the world, make sure you hit subscribe because we'll be breaking this down with you. And I'm Kelvin, the producer here, bringing you the news as it happens.